Well, it was the usual poor showing for me for the last round of predictions. Most of my predictions were way off the mark, but I know I got this one right. Get in there. What is happening with my beloved Yellows? It is crazy. Our form is so good. We are top of the form table.
Smug mode.
Hey, look, it's been an up and down season. As much as you have to endure the bad times, you've got to enjoy the good times, right? I'm sure football will have a way of biting me in the arse at some point, and at some point this good run is going to come to an end. But hopefully we can keep it going for a few more games. But either way, I still have to back my beloved Oxford United to win, because that is the only rule in these predictions that I have to adhere to. It's time to do those predictions for week number 28. It's hotting up in the Championship, at the top, at the bottom, and in the middle. Let's dive into it. Starting at Ewood Park with Blackburn Rovers versus Coventry City. Blackburn Rovers, the latest side to have the shame bell rung against them as they lose to my beloved Oxford United.
Shame!
It was a tight game. I expected it to be a tight game until Cameron Brannigan thumped in that winner via a pretty hefty deflection, but who cares about that? So it does leave me in a bit of a quandary for this game, because I gave Lampard a bit of criticism in my last video, but he's kind of proved me wrong with Coventry getting that win over Bristol City. So they're going to be thinking they can go up to Blackburn and get a result there. But Blackburn themselves still doing well in the league, but it has been a little bit of a tail off in terms of results over the last 6 or 7 games. And John Eustace will want to get that home form, continue that home form up and running if they're going to continue to mount this playoff charge. And as with most Blackburn games, I just can't see this one being a goal fest, unless Coventry come to the party and score some goals, that is. I think this one's going to be tight and cagey, but I just think the former Premier League champions are going to come out the right side of it. I'm going to go for Blackburn Rovers 1, Coventry City 0. Derby County versus Sunderland is up next. My goodness, both these sides had some wild encounters in the last round. Let's start with the home side and the Rams. Derby coming off the back of a very disappointing 2-0 defeat at home to Watford, but they'll be wondering how the heck they did lose that game. Could they have hit the crossbar or the post any more times? They missed a host of chances in that game. At the end of the day, the Derby fans just go away, ruining those missed chances, ruin their poor form, and once again, ruining their manager. And in this championship, when you have a poor result and you need to bounce back quickly, you look at the fixtures and you see Sunderland and you're thinking, oh my goodness, that is not going to be one we can easily bounce back against. Sunderland, one of the best sides in the division. That might get some of the Sunderland fans off my back who continue to call me deluded.
Yes.
But what a big chance the Black Cats missed to get a statement win away at Turf Moor. How many more chances do you need to win a game? Isidore, my good, I feel really sorry for him. Hits the post, has 2 penalties saved by Trafford. First one was never a penalty, second one borderline. But Sunderland, golden chance for them to get that victory, would have been a huge win, but at the end of the day they come away with a 0-0 draw, which probably felt like a loss. But the fact remains that Sunderland played really well in that game, and if they do go to Pride Park and play anything like that level that they did against Burnley, they should come away with all 3 points. But it won't be easy, because Derby will be desperate for a victory themselves. They're still very physical, are still very aggressive, and I still feel they will create chances. But Sunderland will win it in the end. I'm going for Derby County 1. There you go, Sunderland fans. I'm backing you to win. Maybe you won't call me clueless this week. Sunderland 2. Hull City versus the Queen's Park Rangers. Well, the R's are flying, aren't they, in the form guide? There's only one side ahead of them. Who is that side? Oxford United. But the QPR are doing superbly well, and what a turnaround they've had in the last couple of months, really, of the season. And I'll tell you what, if this form continues, they won't be too far away from the playoffs come the end of the season because they're a very hard side to beat. They've got goals in the side, and they really drove a stake through the heart of Plymouth Argyle with that 1-0 victory that they had at Home Park. It was supposed to be a big turning point for Plymouth. We'll get to them in a little bit, but it hasn't proved to be. And full credit for QPR and full credit to Coley. They've unearthed an absolute gem of a player there. But the Tigers are also resurgent, and the Tigers did just recently beat the Lions. Can't believe I missed out on that punditry last time out. Hull City with a big win away at Millwall as they continue their uptick in form as well. And things just starting to go Hull City's way. A huge slice of luck with their goal. But they won't care. Who cares how they go in? They still held on to that win. And I just think this one is going to be another tight and cagey game up at Hull, and I think that it's going to be a draw. Honours even. Hull City 1, QPR 1. Middlesbrough versus West Bromwich Albion. Well, I've got to say, I didn't do well in predictions, but I did get West Bromwich Albion result correct as well as I got the Oxford result correct. So that's a little feather in the cap for me, but not really too surprising. Picking West Brom to draw at home, that seems to be pretty par for the course for them. But it was a frustrating afternoon. Falling down to an early goal for Stoke, having to battle their way back into it. They did manage to get that draw, but they would have been still annoyed that they weren't able to pick up all 3 points. And this one's an intriguing game, really, because it's two sides battling for playoff spots and two sides with up and down form. Middlesbrough's form's really tailed off in the last few weeks, and they just don't seem to win many games of football. 1-0 up against Pompey, had that result turned over by Portsmouth down at Fratton Park, and that's just not the sort of result what I like, because Portsmouth were in the relegation zone with Oxford United, but also not the sort of result Middlesbrough fans need, and not the sort of result that gives you much hope that they are going to be in the playoffs when the music stops at the start of May. And I just have a funny feeling West Brom are going to win this game. I think it's going to be once again Middlesbrough's defensive frailties coming back to haunt them, and I think the Baggies are going to get a pretty precious victory. I'm going to go for Middlesbrough 1, West Bromwich Albion 2. Oxford United versus Luton Town, undoubtedly the game of the round. I'm sure you will all agree. It's a comment I forgot to say in the last video. I hopefully won't make that mistake again. But my boys in yellow and blue are flying. What a turnaround under Gary Rowett. 4 wins, 2 draws from his first 6 games is a turnaround in form that I don't think even the most optimistic of Oxford fans would have hoped for. And we look a completely different side. New players coming into the squad as well to strengthen. And the fact that Gary Rowett's won all 3 of his home games in charge makes me think, well, they are going to win this game, regardless of whether I have my golden rule or not. Luton still have not quite turned that corner yet since the departure of Rob Edwards. Matt Bloomfield coming into the dugout. Interesting choice there. I'll be interested to see what Luton fans think of that. I don't think that at the start of the season you'd have been saying if you got the Wycombe manager as your boss halfway through the season. I don't think too many Hatters fans would have been too pleased. But he has done an excellent job at Wycombe. Wycombe players and managers, he is an ex-Wycombe player and an ex-Wycombe manager, tend to spoil the party when they come up against Oxford. Let's hope that's not the case. And I don't think it will be. I think Oxford are in such good form. I think they will beat this Luton side. And for once in the season, I'm actually pretty confident. Let's go for a big Oxford United win here. Oxford United 3, Luton Town 1. Swansea City versus Sheffield United. Swansea Cities are falling down the league, and they lost heavily in the All-Wales derby to Cardiff. The bragging rights of the Valleys. Oh my god, that was terrible. That sounded more Schwarzenegger than someone from Wales. Come on! But regardless, those bragging rights firmly in the Bluebirds' corner, and the Swans are licking their wounds and they need to bounce back, but you don't get many harder tasks than Sheffield United. This Sheffield United side continues to be pretty granite-like under Chris Wilder. Gus Hamer with an inspired display to send the Blades past the Canaries in the last game. And so pretty comfortable win for Sheffield United in that game over Norwich. And they'll be hoping they can get another pretty comfortable win on the road against a Swansea side that are pretty much feeling sorry for themselves. I think that Sheffield United will win this game, and I think it will be another comfortable 1-0 for Chris Wilder's men. All things looking pretty good in the Sheffield United camp, but they just need to get those signings through the door. If they can get Brereton Diaz, that is a big signing, that is for sure. I'm going to go for Swansea City 0, Sheffield United 2. Watford versus Preston North End. Watford continue to be one of these sides in the Championship that continue to just slap me in the face, regardless of whether I back them to win, lose or draw. I didn't think they'd have much hope at Pride Park against Derby, and they produced an excellent away victory. I think that might be their first away win of the season. So well done to the Hornets. Got that early goal. Did have to ride their luck a little bit, but they ended up with a nice 2-0 victory to continue, or to put some momentum back into that playoff charge. I did think that maybe they were going to tail off and slide back towards the middle of the pack, but Tom Cleverley clearly has other ideas, and they'll be thinking with their good home form that they can beat a Preston side who themselves struggle to win games. But the one thing Preston do normally do is keep games tight, and I do think this one is going to be quite tight as well. I just think Watford have got too much attacking quality in their ranks, and they're going to edge this one over Preston. I think it's going to be back-to-back victories for the Hornets. I'm going to go for Watford 2, Preston 1. Millwall versus Cardiff City, two sides with a huge reversal in fortunes over recent weeks. I'm telling you, Cardiff hit rock bottom when they lost to Oxford, and they've really turned it around. Huge victory over Swansea City, the bragging rights of the Valleys. Come on! And they're out of the relegation zone, and they can hopefully start thinking that they can look up the table. Omar Risa, as I say, has turned this form around out of absolutely nowhere, even coming off some pretty horrible family bereavement news for him as well. Still able to get that big win in that big derby. Callum Robinson will always be remembered in Cardiff folklore for those two goals. First goal, a wonderful goal, I've got to say. And they're coming up against a Millwall side, and I'd say the Lions fans have got to be a bit worried. They are falling down the league. They cannot score goals. Yes, they've still got this good defence, but they just cannot put the ball in the back of the net, which always leaves them susceptible to lose games. So when you look at this one, with Cardiff being in renewed form and Millwall struggling, a lot of people probably think Cardiff might get an away win, but I do think the Lions will be able to grind this one out and probably, predictably, get a draw. I think this one's going to end up being a dull bore score draw. I'm going for 0-0. Leeds United versus Norwich City is first up on the Wednesday. I'm doing this video before I've seen Leeds play against Sheffield Wednesday. I am predicting Leeds to get a big victory in this one, and they'll be hoping to get another big victory against a Canary side who really are struggling when they are away from Carrow Road. I don't really have too much to say about this one, but I just think it's going to be another game off the back of that Sheffield United one where Norwich were pretty comfortably beaten, where they're just not going to really have any answers. And I actually think Leeds are going to heap the woe onto this Norwich City side, who are really just going through transition, it seems, this season. I can't really see them having any chance of getting into the playoffs, but maybe they will turn it on in the final few weeks of the season, but they won't turn it on here. A big win for the Whites. Biggest win of the weekend, or midweek. There we go. Leeds United 5, Norwich City 0. Portsmouth versus Stoke City. Pompey will be hoping that they can get back-to-back victories and use that Fratton Park momentum to get a vital another 3 points on the board. It was an excellent come-from-behind victory for Portsmouth against Middlesbrough. It would have been all doom and gloom when Latilaf got that goal, but Matt Ritchie rolling back the years with 2 goals for Portsmouth. Second goal, a really fantastic finish, and it ended up with Portsmouth getting a fine victory. And I still maintain that I don't think Pompey will go down this season. They are not getting the luck away from home. That 3-0 victory for Blackburn really flattered Rovers. Pompey easily could have got something out of that game if they just got the benefit of some proper refereeing calls, but they are still rolling out victories at Fratton Park. It seems to be, no matter how bad of a defeat they take on the road, they bounce back at Fratton Park. Stoke, though, are themselves in pretty good form, looking like they're hard to beat. under Mark Robbins, or that did carry on over the caretaker manager as well. A good 1-1 draw against West Brom, and they won't make this easy for Portsmouth. It'll be another one where they have to scrap and fight for everything, but I just think Portsmouth are going to get the job done, and I'm going to go for Portsmouth 2, Stoke City 1. Sheffield Wednesday versus Bristol City.
Come on, Wednesday!
Yep, I'm pretty hot on Wednesday on this one. I will talk on Wednesday situation in a minute, but obviously I am filming this one before I've seen them play against Leeds. Obviously that I'm picking a heavy defeat for Wednesday, but I think they'll bounce back in this one over Bristol City. It's a Bristol City side, again, like a few sides in this championship, I just can't seem to ever predict what they're going to do. I thought they might be able to put in a performance against Frank Lampard's Coventry, but they didn't. They fell to a 1-0 defeat, and once again, always seems to be one step forward, 2 steps back for this Bristol City side, and they'll probably end up around 12th or 13th in the table. Familiar story for Bristol City, familiar story for this Liam Manning side, who just frustrate and annoy me, and I think that's why one of the main reasons why I'm going to put them down for a defeat here to Sheffield Wednesday. You can't say they didn't have chances in that Coventry game, they just didn't take them, and I think Wednesday will take their chances. Wednesday, oh my goodness, what is going on with you guys? I really feel sorry for the Wednesday fans. I really feel sorry for Danny Roll, mainly because Chansiri is an absolute disgrace of an owner. The comments he came out and said in the fans forum last week are, well, I've already said the word disgrace. I can't think of a better word to sum it up than that. But basically coming out and criticising Danny Roll, basically coming out and criticising the fans. It's just a long litany of terrible owners in English football. Oxford have had to deal with that as well. We had our pain under Firos Kassam, and we're still living in the legacy of his era with that wonderful stadium that we get to play in. But the likes of Blackburn Rovers with the Venkeys, the likes of Cardiff with Vincent Tan will understand what Wednesday are going for with Chansiri, and they probably won't be able to move forward as a football club until he finally sells, which is a real shame. They could even end up losing a quality manager like Danny Roll because of the way Chansiri runs the club. But I do think Wednesday will get a victory here. And look, let's just say Wednesday aren't too far away from getting into this playoff mix. If they can be a bit more consistent, they will be right up there at the end of the season. So who knows? Maybe they can get it done despite what Chansiri does. Let's go for Sheffield Wednesday 3, Bristol City 1. And finally, we end at home park with Plymouth versus Burnley. This is going to be a fascinating game. I can't wait to watch it. I've been a bit engrossed with Plymouth Argyle games because I want to see if they can turn it around under Muslic. It's too short of a sample size for him to be judged yet, but you've had 2 home games in a row where you would have thought Plymouth would have been thinking they could have got 6 points from, or at least 4 points against Oxford and against QPR, and you've only got 1. So things aren't looking good for Plymouth down the bottom, and they need to start getting some wins on the board quick. But again, you look at playing a side like Burnley, it isn't going to be easy. It's a side that rarely loses. It's a side that rarely concedes a goal. When you've got a keeper like James Trafford, how can you possibly get the ball past him? I didn't like his gamesmanship, but wow, 2 penalty saves against Sunderland to give Burnley a precious point in that one. And the spirit and the grit that Burnley show, I mean, they should be able to show that grit. They've got a rich and vast enough and expensive enough squad to be able to at least show grit. But they are certainly showing that, and they are at the top of the table for a reason, and they usually do end up grinding out games. But Plymouth have a spirit at home park, and I know they didn't necessarily show it in the last 2 games, and I'm hoping they will show it here. I don't think they're going to win the game, but I think they're going to get something out of it, which probably end of the day won't really help either side. Let me know, Plymouth and Burnley fans, what you think about this one. I'm going to go for Plymouth 1, Burnley 1. Okay, that's it, folks. That's your lot. That's your lot for the latest round of Midweek Madness. Hope you enjoyed it, and leave your comments down below and leave your predictions down below as well. I'll be back to do a review of Oxford versus Luton Town, and then there'll be another round of predictions for the weekend's game. That's it from me, and I'm going to leave it to Leonard Nimoy to see us out.
My work is done here.
What do you mean?
mean your work is done? You didn't do anything.
Didn't I?